My daddy uses Anchor to publish his podcast, and he loves it. Not only can he record, edit, and distribute on this platform, but he can make money at the same time, all for free. If you too would like to get started on your own podcast, go to the website anchor.fm or download the free Anchor app. Don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for listening. Have a great day. Let's go!
So close, I know, you ain't got to tell me so, 'cause I already know, got my eye on the goal, too close, I know, you ain't gotta tell me so, 'cause I was summoned by God to be the greatest.
Welcome to the second season of Third Eye Podcast. I am your host, Marcus Callahan, and I am so happy to be back in the studio recording and making content for you all. You know, I took a much needed break because this year has been one gut punch after another. And if you've listened to the season finale for season 1, then you already know that in April, I lost my grandfather and one of my best friends back to back, and it has been a struggle each day to come to terms with their passing. But I am trying. Unfortunately, earlier this week, I was dealt another blow. One of my old producers from back when I made music many, many years ago, he passed away due to complications from COVID-19. Rest in paradise, Bruce Williamson. You will be missed and forever loved. It just reminds me each day that this life is fleeting and it can be taken away from us at any moment. So I urge each and every one of you, please don't hold grudges. Tell the people most important to you how you feel every day. And please, please be present in the moments that you are given. All right, now without further ado, let's get into today's episode. I have a returning guest. You know him, you love him. Mr. Dean, aka Dean the Aubrey, is joining us just for a casual conversation between cousins about life catching up. How are you, my friend?
Man, this year's almost over, so I can really say it.
Yeah, almost over.
Oh, man. I'm surviving now.
Yeah, that's all you can do at this point, survive.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So, happy birthday to your daughter, man. How was the celebration?
No, it was fun, man. I wasn't expecting to do a Zoom call, but after doing one for Elias's birthday, we're like, hey, you know what? We could do that for the family and stuff. That seems like a better way to go about it right now with everybody not really being in town and all that stuff.
Yeah, man. I didn't even it never even crossed my mind to do a Zoom call for the birthdays. Like, Evelyn's birthday just passed, and I could have did a Zoom call and had everyone, on it and whatnot, but it didn't even cross my mind. So, I mean, we're having a party for her tomorrow, but that's just people in town.
Yeah, happy birthday, both of y'all.
Thank you, man. This birthday was kind of strange, man. Like, I don't know, the energy was so off, but I will say this. I was very surprised because people actually did hit me on my Cash App.
Nice.
I
should have did that for my birthday. I should have just put up my Cash App, like, hey, do what you will.
Yeah, man. I was like, oh, okay. Thank you, y'all. I appreciate that.
I would have Cash App too, but I've been broke.
Hey, bro.
Oh, man.
Look, that's the only reason I put the Cash App up there, because I'm broke, man.
Oh, man. It's getting pretty bad. It's getting pretty bad this year.
Speaking of broke, this whole COVID thing still happening. How's that going for you? Are you working yet?
I'm not getting any work back as far as stagehand goes. Like, it even sounds like we're not going to be working next year at all. So
Wow.
yeah, my job's pretty much gone.
Damn, that's crazy, man.
Yeah, it's frustrating because one of the shows was supposed to still go on um, this year. I think it was SEMA. It was supposed to happen in, I think actually this month or next month. I don't remember. And I was like, man, even if it's just one big show, I'll just take it so I can catch up on some stuff. And, you know, if I got to get back to doing unemployment and stuff, and after that, then fine.
Right,
You know?
right. Yeah.
But yeah, that got canceled, and that's pretty much it because CES definitely isn't happening. You know.
Man, I'm sorry to hear that, man. That sucks.
Yeah, it's rough, but you know, on the bright side, and you know, I was just actually talking to the wife about this earlier. Like, if it's kind of a double-edged sword. If I was still working, I wouldn't have the time to work on the projects that I'm currently working on. But on the other hand, if I was working, I had the money to fund it. So, you know, it's either or. It looks like.
Yeah. I hear you on that one, man. Throughout this whole thing, I've just been trying to look at the positives, and with my wife only going into work, off and on. She switches week to week. One week she'll be at home working, the next she'll be at the office. I've come to just try to enjoy the times that she is there, and then my whole family can be together. That's really all you can do at this point.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. We actually caught the Rona for a few weeks, and it sucked, especially for me because I'm one of the people who are at high risk. So I I got put out for about a week. I was laying in bed, just could not get out of bed, could not stay awake for nothing. And yeah, it sucked.
Damn, man. I'm
but
happy you guys recovered.
yeah, and that's the thing. We recovered, and the kids did not catch it.
That's good.
So, I was just happy about that. I wasn't too worried about it because usually when we catch the like the flu or anything, like we have our own remedies about that, and sure enough, our remedies worked. When it came down to this, it just took a lot longer.
Yeah. Oh man, this COVID thing is, man, like it won't stop, man.
Yeah, I'm still just on the fence about how this whole thing is being treated because it's well, for one, like I said, not only did I catch it, but now I'm broke on top of having caught it. So, so it's like, man, I just, I would have rather had caught it and I was working and making money and had to be put out for a couple weeks and lost a couple weeks of money than to, pretty much be trapped in my house and all this stuff and catch it anyway. And now I'm broke too.
Right. Yeah, that's
So
yeah, that's not a good look at all.
especially after catching it too. It's just like, man, this sucks. It's terrible. I wouldn't wish this on anybody. But I could have took a couple weeks off of work for this and just roll right back into it and be done. But be dealing with it.
Yeah, well, I mean, you have experience with it now. I mean, and that's not to say that everyone's experience will be the same, but you have a special insight into Corona because you did catch it and you
Yeah.
survived. And I mean, yeah, it shit sucks, but the whole response to this whole thing just perplexes me.
Yeah, and it's not to say that like other people who catch it wouldn't have it worse, because I mean, I've known a couple of people who had it and they had worse symptoms than I had. Some symptoms I didn't have to deal with that they did, and yeah, it's terrible. But on the flip side of things, that's pretty much any disease that we have to deal with. And
Right.
looking at the effects of this lockdown by comparison, the depression rates are up, suicide rates are up, and I don't even want to know what winter is going to be like, because winter is typically the season where there's the highest rates of suicide, and I don't even want to know what's going to be like taking on winter, and people are broke, and some people probably have gotten evicted by now because that moratorium was lifted recently. I think they put it back within the same month, but I'm certain some people ended up getting like evicted and stuff. And
yeah, there were definitely some people who got evicted, and you were absolutely right. Winter is going to be crazy. I mean, it's already crazy now. Like you said, suicide rates are up, depression rates are up. And it seems like our government just doesn't give a fuck.
Yeah, that's the worst part. It's like, dude, just give us our money, man. And you've probably seen a number of my posts on Facebook, but
oh yeah. But I'm a frequent viewer.
It's one of those things where it's like, man, I think everybody needs to, like, I get why everybody's like up in arms, but everybody needs to chill out. Like, we really need to chill out. We need to just come together and like, look, we need to make our government decide what they're going to do. Because that's the bigger problem right now to me, is that they can't decide what they want to do. They want to lock us down, but then they don't want to give us money. They want to open things back up, but then they want to enforce all these things that are going to make people go crazy because you just had them locked down. And then they want to talk about locking down again, which I don't think they actually end up doing. I think they're like halfway locked down. I don't know. It's like, come on, just make a decision. Like, lock down and give us our money, or open things up. Let people get sick, because some people are going to get over it and there's going to be a herd immunity and all that stuff. Like, let that stuff happen. Like, decide on something, because going back and forth is only actually making it worse. Because, you lock people down and all this other stuff, and the virus is not going anywhere. And then you turn around and open things up. So now people who have been locked up in their houses, their immune systems are down because they haven't really been out and doing stuff. And, they've been in fear and all this other stuff happening to the immune system. They go out and now they're going to get sick, and it just keeps like getting worse. And some countries, and the thing is, like, people like to blame Trump and stuff, but I'm like, we got to look at all these other countries too. Some of these other countries, some of them are handling it worse than others. Some are handling it better. And some I agree with it, and it's working. And it's just, we have a disease, that allegedly we've never dealt with before. You're going to have these things happen. It's right. People are going to get sick. People are going to die. It's unfortunate. It sucks. Nobody's debating that, but we have to try to be realistic. Making people lose their well-being, and their livelihoods and stuff. On top of that, it's not gonna necessarily help. But that's just my perspective on it. Like, and just, I don't know, all these, Karen, it's like Karens on both sides. Karens that tell on people about not wearing a mask or having parties or whatever. Then there's Karens that are like slam their head against windows because they can't get into their restaurant or whatever. And
yeah,
like, chill, please chill, just chill.
Yeah, for real. No, and I talked about this with a lot of people. I think the more appropriate response would have been, when all of this shit popped off, like, if you want to lock people down, cool, but do like a full lockdown, like shut everything down, make sure people, pay people so they can still live and, pay their bills and whatnot, get it under control, and then you can open up. Not this half-ass, some states lock down, others are free to do whatever they want to do. Like, yeah. Like, that just defeated the purpose of, like, this thing could have been over with by now.
Well, the biggest issue is that, and I think this is just an American thing, is that even if the president just straight up said, we're going to lock everything down, like, some of these states could be like, nah, we're not doing that. And
true.
So that's like, this is a double-edged sword, because it's like, we have states that can decide, look, we're not going to do that. And that's great. But at the same time, like, if there's like a unified thing that we need to do, all the states have to agree. And unfortunately, that's not going to happen. And that's why, like, in my opinion, I think that what they should have done, like, because I agree with what you're saying too, like, if you're going to lock it down, just lock it down. lock it down for about a month, maybe a month or two. I believe, I don't remember what country that did this, but they locked it down for about a month or so. And then like slowly open things back up, and you know the cases went down and everything. But there was also another country that did herd immunity, and now with the country being the way it is, and states not being able to agree on anything, I kind of feel like herd immunity would have been something that we should have done, because it's less of like red tape around like how we're going to get all these states to agree with this and that, because just how we usually deal with like these pandemics is that, you know, we try to save the people that are more susceptible to it, who are more likely to die from it. We protect those people, and the people that, you know, they may suffer a bit, but they're going to be fine. You know, they're going to get through it. Usually you let them be the ones to get sick, or if they want to take precautions themselves, they can do that. But, you know, and of course, you know, tinfoil hat. I think there's a little bit more. I think it's a little bit more to this than just a disease, because it's, well, for one, like I said, elections coming up. I'm not going to be surprised if COVID suddenly disappears after elections in America, not everywhere else in the country, because or in the world, because everywhere else in the world it's like flip flopping. But I'm not going to be surprised if suddenly, like, you know, America's like immune to COVID or something after the election's over.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised either, man. That's just the way things go.
But I do think that like there's something a little bit deeper going on with this, because just the way that they're handling this, you know, and a lot of people bring up the numbers and stuff, and I think in some cases people, it's understandable why they're bringing up the numbers, you know, death numbers being low and stuff, because I mean the reality of it is we are dealing with this very weirdly compared to other diseases that probably have killed more people. Mm-hmm. But then there's other people that are like bringing up the numbers just to kind of have that like smug, like, and it's just like, come on, man, like nobody really knows how to handle this when the whole world is panicking. So, you know, we still got to be a little bit tactful for that.
Right.
But I do think that it's a little bit something deeper, because, you know, a lot of these companies pulled out prior to the virus and stuff, and of course, you see like a lot of these corporations are getting a lot of money while we're sitting here suffering. A lot of these corporations get money and stuff like that, so they're benefiting from this virus one way or another. And yeah, I just I'm just kind of here for the ride at the moment.
It's interesting you bring up the how all these corporations are benefiting during all this shit. Specifically, you know, Amazon, which, you know, I get, you know, it's an online retailer. If you can't go anywhere, where are you going to go? Amazon. Yeah. I get that. But I don't know if you saw, but I posted something about Jeff Bezos. Basically, like, he could have paid like all of his employees like $105,000 bonus, and been left with the exact amount of money he had before the pandemic started, which was billions.
Oh yeah, I think I saw that. Yeah, I agree.
It's like, oh my God! Like, first of all, the fact that any one person has that much money, just as much as I hate it, it bothers me. Like, no one needs that amount of money. Like, he will never ever spend that much money in his lifetime,
his kid's lifetime.
It's just, I mean, that's a whole nother topic. But the fact that I know people who work for Amazon who are fucking slaving, trying to, you know, get people their orders and whatnot, and their benefits are whack. Their pay, I mean, they get paid decently, but for the type of work they're doing, and I know firsthand because I did it, they should be getting paid a lot more.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I've worked Amazon Flex, and that they didn't pay me enough for that.
Yeah. So I mean, it's crazy that, and it's pretty much like all billionaires like increased their profits throughout this whole thing.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, they big money off of this, and that's the thing. Like I feel like a lot of people aren't seeing that. Like they're not seeing that. Like there's benefit to this pandemic. There's benefit to these lockdown stuff. That, for these corporations. So when they're advocating for masks and doing all this weird virtue signaling stuff, like that's all I see is like, oh, we just want more of your money,
Yeah.
and for people to be fighting with each other over a cloth, that arguably whether it actually works or not, it's not really worth fighting over. And I kind of feel like it's I think of it like me and you have kids.
Mm-hmm.
When you tell one kid, look, or you tell all of them, you're like, look, well, this one did this, so all of you are not getting a cookie tonight or whatever. I feel like the same thing with the mask. They're not wearing a mask, so this lockdown is not going to end.
Yeah.
Well, you can't even, like, how do you keep track of everybody wearing a mask? How do you prove that everybody wearing a mask is going to, like, suddenly make this thing stop? Now, if you want to argue, like, social distancing, not having these big groups or, not going out protesting and having these big, crowded events, if you want to make arguments for that, I can totally see that because that makes more sense.
Right.
But to say like, oh, well, if you're not masking up, you're just spreading. It's like, no, you can't really prove that.
You can't, and I think it's foolish. Like you can't. The mask alone is not going to stop this virus. Social distancing, all that stuff. You got to do all that. And look, it is your right as an American, as a human being. If you don't want to wear a mask, whatever, man. Don't wear the mask. I really don't care.
That's where I'm at.
Like at this point, like I'm over it.
Yeah, it's just been this ridiculous thing because I've been seeing both sides of it. Like somebody screaming my rights, my rights, my rights. And then other people are like, oh, these idiots not wearing masks and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, who cares, man? It's like if they're not going to wear masks, then stay away from them.
Exactly.
You see somebody out there not wearing a mask, then social distance further.
Yeah, further. And and you got these people who you see that they're not wearing a mask, and then what do? They go confront them.
Yeah, like what?
You're not helping, bruh.
Yeah, like what do you think you're going to accomplish by confronting somebody who's not wearing a mask? And the same thing with people who don't wear masks. They're going up to these people who wear a mask, calling medias and this and that. What do you think you're going to accomplish by doing that? If you don't want to wear the mask, then don't. Go to these restaurants or places or whatever that only require you to wear the mask so you can get in so that they don't get in trouble, because that's another stupid thing that's going on here.
Mm-hmm.
Government's putting responsibility in the business's hands. Again, it's this whole thing, like, and that's why I feel like there's a deeper thing, because it's like this whole divide here of, oh, well, they're not wearing masks. We're pointing the finger at them, even though you guys are the ones making the shitty decisions that are screwing all of us over. But hey, let's go get mad at Karen over here for not wearing a mask. Let's go get mad at this business over here because they won't let us come in without the mask. Let's get mad at all these people that are forced into this situation here, instead of mad at the people who are screwing us over and going on vacation.
Right. Yeah.
It's just crazy. It's just craziness, and I think the fact people got locked down is only making it worse too, because people are losing their minds.
Yeah, people are, like, for reals, losing their minds. Speaking of losing minds, we just started virtual learning for school. Oh my Lord.
Oh boy.
Bruh, like, you've been on this homeschooling thing.
Yeah.
Man. I don't know if I got it in me, bruh.
I would just say, from what I've seen, because I haven't really looked into the programs that they have, it doesn't look to be the same as like what we do.
Right, right.
It seems more like it's just public school but online, whereas homeschooling, at least in my experience, you got a lot more leeway. Of course, you got to be more focused too, because. Mm-hmm. You can't keep that leeway for too long. But you could pretty much choose, hey, today ain't working out, so we're not going to do this today. But, the next day it was like, all right, well, we'll just double down on it. And,
Right.
Teach them, you could choose what you want to teach them at the same time and stuff. And it's like, like when you look at the curriculum and everything, like you can make these different choices and you have different ways of teaching the kid, and you can, engage each one of them. But from what I'm seeing, the online stuff is just, it works for what it needs to, but I don't really see it as like a good representation of homeschooling.
Yeah, I would agree with you there, man. It's definitely not it's not the same at all. Yeah, they're on Zoom meetings with their teachers for most of the day. They do log off throughout the day intermittently, and they do like independent work and studies, and I help them out as much as I can.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. Like I was really hoping that school would be open.
You know, that's actually the interesting thing, like, because a lot, and that kind of comes into the fact that like our kids didn't catch the virus. From what I understand, and maybe I just have to look into it more. There's data out there like stating kids aren't susceptible to this virus, nor if they even have it, they wouldn't spread it. So I can understand why they were trying to say to open up the schools,
Right.
because the kids aren't really going to catch it. My problem with opening schools, though, is that they're going to try to mandate the mask and stuff, and kids aren't going to want to do that. And um, even if you had the kids do that, it's dangerous, because what if they go out for PE and they're wearing a mask, stuff like that? There have been kids in different countries and stuff like that have dropped dead because they've been running around.
Mm-hmm.
They got all this energy and they have this mask on, and that's kind of the issue that that people are raising when it comes down to respiratory problems. Is that even when you're healthy, wearing a mask and doing all that activity and stuff is not good for you. And
And it's not. Not to mention, you send little Johnny to school with a Batman mask. He come home with a Superman mask.
yeah,
Look what I traded for today, mommy.
yeah, that's not gonna that's not gonna go very well. So yeah, I can. I'm kind of on the fence. Like again, I'm somebody who homeschool, so it's not really affecting me. But I can see both sides of like um, why they would want the schools open, because again, kids are very less likely to catch this thing,
Right.
um, or they wouldn't be heavily affected by it. At least from what I'm seeing, like the data I've seen. Maybe I need to read into it more, but from what I've been seeing, that's kind of the case. And at least from my experience, our kids did not catch it at all, and we were out for weeks. We were
Mm.
out for weeks, and we even waited a month to see if they had any symptoms popped up. Nothing. They never caught it. Um, and that's not said that every kid is not going to catch it, but it seems to me, between the data and my experience, that it would be okay to open the schools, but there's still this whole mask regulation thing in some states, and I just don't see that going down very well with kids.
Nah, it definitely wouldn't. And I like, you know, Amanda and I were talking about this, and we were debating back and forth because, our district took forever to decide if they were going to do online schooling or
Yeah,
actually open up. So we're talking about it and trying to weigh our options, and we wanted to send the kids to school because we don't want to shelter them.
right.
Uh, and both of our boys learn better through physical interaction. Um, so we wanted them to have that experience, but at the same time, we don't want to put them in a situation that could be harmful.
Right. Yeah.
And that's the struggle for me personally. Since Amanda goes into the office sometimes, and then those weeks I'm by myself after working all night long. It's tough to come home and then have to be teacher and moderator.
Yeah. No, it's, I mean, even with me having been home this entire time, it's just as rough. And it's even worse now because we pretty much had programs in mind where you know, we would take them out for stuff, and there's something, and some things are opening back up, so we're probably going to try to get back into that. But the thing is, we don't have the money to fund that too, so that it's just this year sucks. Whether you've been homeschooling or you're just now starting to homeschool, it just sucks. We don't have the proper options to do the things that we usually do, and that's actually something interesting that I'm working on as well. I think I've talked with you before about it, but like we're trying to build our own curriculum, and that's kind of part of what we want to do with them, and see independently what they want to learn. And from what I understand, the coding is actually part of the curriculum now. I don't know if it's a required thing, but it is part of the curriculum.
Yeah, it's. I mean, coding has gained so much traction over the years, and the way the world's going, like it's going to be a necessary skill to have.
Oh yeah, I've been reading into it myself, and it's been driving me crazy. I don't have the patience for it, honestly, but I'm still trying to learn it myself.
Right. Yeah, man. If you can learn that, there's a lot of different opportunities that open up for you. I've been thinking about diving into it myself because I need something. To be honest, I just need something more stimulating than security work. Like it's just not it for me.
Oh yeah, I feel that, man. And that's the reason why I've been looking into it too, because especially getting into the gaming industry and stuff, like it's just a useful skill to have for practically everything.
Yep.
Everything's becoming digital. It's just a great skill to have, and you can make money with that. You make pretty good money off of that. I'm also trying to get back into some art classes because I'm really trying to get back into the swing of doing art again. I feel like both of those are really tough to stay consistent on. If you fall off, I have to be really motivated. And just this whole year has been a motivation killer.
Yeah, this whole year is a shit show. I don't even know any other way to describe it, man. Like this, ball this year up, throw it away, start over.
Yeah, I actually feel, and me, where I stand on the whole left versus right thing and elections and politicians and stuff. But I really feel like this is probably the wrong year to have an election.
Yeah,
it just seems like there's too much crazy stuff to go on to be trying to change out the president or whatever. We got a lot of stuff going on right now.
I agree 100%. I don't think elections are. I don't think that should be at the top of our priority list right now. Like, that's definitely something you can postpone.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm like, can we like push this to 2021? It's only a couple months, right?
Yeah,
we could do that, right?
And this, I thought the last election was horrible as well. But this year, like last election, I felt like I was choosing between two evils. This year, I feel like I'm choosing between two clowns.
I felt like both for this election and last election, really.
Like, is this really the best y'all got, America? Like,
I will say this because I have to admit I have been looking a little bit into politics more than I have before. Prior, again, I'm more of a centrist. I just want somebody who's just gonna give us tangibles, and not get in my way because we know the president doesn't have power over everything. As we can see with this pandemic, states decide a lot of things, and we have to vote locally. But more recently, like I've been kind of looking into, like, because I never really looked into the arguments of the right, but the interesting thing that kind of pushed me to look into that is kind of how the media has been acting. You know, I've always been adamant against the media because of how they are with everything.
Right.
Like they politicize everything. They always try to demonize people who technically aren't really doing much of anything. But more recently, like I really just sat down. I'm like, why are these people going so hard after Trump? Because again, it's like what we said in the last podcast. I don't recall people hating Trump so much before he became president. And
yeah, in fact, a lot of people really liked him. Like,
yeah, like at best, like, because I never really cared for the guy. At best, I seen him more as a meme. The "you're fired" guy. That's pretty much what I saw him as. But
all I saw him as.
yeah, but it's like this whole thing about him being racist. I'm like, all right, let me look into this. And you know, everybody keeps saying, oh, well, he said this and that, and I'm like, okay, well, all right, what's your proof? And you know what they do? They show me a 5-second clip, and I'm like, okay, look, we know how the media is. I'm not gonna look at a 5-second clip and say that this guy's racist because of that, because they do that all the time. Even with Biden, I'm like, okay, sure, Biden said that, you know, you're not black if you don't vote for him. Look, he could just be a senile old man.
He is. He is.
We know he's checking out. He may not know what era he's in. You never know. Like but I looked into both of them, and it's like every time they say Trump is saying this and that, I look into it and it's like he'll say like the whole they're great people thing. I looked into that. 2 seconds later, he says, "I'm not talking about the white supremacists." Like he denounces them and everything in the whole speech. And I'm like, so not a different clip, not a separate clip where he's like dialing back or backpedaling another. No, same clip. 2 seconds later, he denounces the white supremacists and everything, and said that I'm talking about the guys who are protesting them taking down statues because they're going to have peaceful protest. Now, granted, Trump is not the most tactful guy. I I see some of the stuff he says, and I'm like, man, this guy's a bit of an ass. But if there's anything I've learned over the years, especially after Obama, after Trump for 4 years, is that all these politicians are assholes, you know. And if Trump's racist, you know, tell me something new. Like, what politician isn't racist or isn't compromised? Obama, to me, was compromised. After the first 4 years, I saw like immediately, like, oh man, this guy's definitely not doing what we thought he was going to do for sure. I mean, he did some things, and like all these presidents at least do something. But the thing is like if Trump is a white supremacist, like people trying to paint him like he's the worst white supremacist I've ever seen. The Ku Klux Klan must be really ashamed of this guy, because for one, he permanently funded like black colleges. Now the thing that people trying to bring up him, you know, getting all those people out of prison and saying that was helping black people. Technically speaking, yeah, most of the people that were released from prison for all those stupid charges that, unfortunately for Biden, that was Biden and Clinton that did that. Yeah, they were black, but I wouldn't necessarily say that he specifically did that for black people. He probably just did that because he thought it was the right thing to do.
Yeah, he wasn't specifically targeting black people in jail.
Yeah, so there's that, and that's where like my standpoint is. It's like, okay, he's an ass. He's saying things that I'm like, I don't know about that, man. But I'm looking at his actions, and that's the thing. Like, I'm looking at all these politicians and their actions, and so far it's like, oh, okay, well, you know what? I don't think Trump's going to be too bad for the next 4 years, because he's doing some stuff. Yeah, he's saying some things, and it's making us look dumb. But honestly, if people want to be real, other countries have never really looked that good on us. Like when Obama got in office, people were like, "Oh yeah, they got a black president." Yeah, sure. The other countries finally decided that we were a good country or something for like that 8 years or whatever. But you know, they were probably still talking crap. And then I don't even want to get into the whole war criminal stuff with Obama. That's not even.
Yeah. That's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah, but I look at their actions, and so far, like everything that I keep seeing from the Democrats and Biden and stuff is just, look, we're not Trump, vote for us. And it's like, I'm with Ice Cube, bro. What are you gonna do for us though? Like, you can keep telling us you're not Trump. All right, I get it. All the emotional people are gonna want to get Trump out, whatever. Okay, cool. you got that down. You got the advertising and fear mongering, and you got Cardi B on, and all her followers are probably relating to you now for some reason, even though you probably don't care about her. What are you gonna do for us though? Like, what are you gonna do? And it's always comes back to, well, we're not Trump. Okay, cool. You're not Trump. What are you gonna do for us though? Yeah, let's not talk about that right now. We're not Trump. Okay, well, look,
Yeah.
if you're gonna convince me to vote, like you gotta tell me like what are you gonna do for us? Because so far, looking at, like I said, look at what Trump does. I don't know what's gonna happen in the next 4 years. I just know this 4 years, I've done a little bit better financially than I've ever done the whole 8 years under Obama. And again, Obama got into office as soon as we graduated, and we came into a recession pretty much. And I've been trying to recover from that, and it was always a big struggle. And Obamacare, for what it is, I know it benefited some people, but people like myself that were making a certain amount of money, that screwed us over, because we ended up having to pay more on that and stuff. And yeah, I was just like, man, this really screwed me over. So when they took that off, that helped me a lot, because I was able to get insurance, get proper insurance that is properly paid for. And, I've been able to make better moves. And, I've even started my own business. I'm still waiting for like the paperwork and stuff to get back. And, I have to give Trump that credit there. He's a businessman. He helps the businesses. And to me, I think that's more important, is that, if I'm going to deal with racism, I want to deal with racism with money in my pocket, because look, we've been dealing with racism forever.
Yeah, true. That's true.
If I'm going to deal with that, I want to deal with it and not be broke. And before this pandemic happened, things were going on an upswing, and it just 2020 looked promising before this whole pandemic happened. Like, it looked very promising. There was a lot of work coming in. He was bringing a lot of businesses back to the U.S. That was kind of a big complaint about Obama, is that, all these outsourcing to other countries and stuff, it's not helping us right now. Even back then, when I didn't know a lot about politics stuff and I voted for him the first 4 years, my question was always, okay, sure, help other countries, but shouldn't we be trying to fix things here first? We got to fix things here, and then if you want to help other countries, cool. We got a lot of stuff going on here. And then of course there's this whole other thing too about people saying, Trump is pro-cop. Honestly, Biden's pro-cop too. They're both pro-cop. We're just screwed on that.
Right.
We're pretty much screwed on that. But let's be real. Like, Obama signed something that protects the police in the climate of, Trayvon Martin and all this stuff. He did a whole speech and this whole spiel. And that's the thing I noticed with the left. They love to speak. They love to speak. They love to advertise. But then you look at their action and it's like, what are you guys doing? Obama had his whole speech about Trayvon Martin and all this and that, and how that could have been him or his son or whatever. He didn't even have a son. But then he goes and then he signs this bill that protects the police. And it's like, okay, you just had this whole spiel about police and racism and this and that, and you go and sign that. At least with Trump right now, it's really muddy right now. We got peaceful protesters, and again, I don't co-sign Black Lives Matter, the organization. And really, even the phrase now, I'm kind of backing away from it, because it's just becoming a hashtag that's not helping people. I don't really co-sign with that, but I'm not going to say that like every single one of them are rioters and this and that, because there are peaceful protests. Right. I'm all for that. You guys want to peacefully protest? Cool. In fact, I think the people that are rioting don't really have much to do with Black Lives Matter. I think that they're provocateurs and stuff.
Absolutely.
But we've had spokespeople for Black Lives Matter advocating the riots, and that's the problem. You can't be in that position and advocate for that kind of stuff when most of us pretty much agree we shouldn't be doing that. We need to be doing these proper protests and stuff, and and not let people who are provocative and stuff, because a lot of protesters are actually going against that too. A lot of them are out there on the streets like, look, man, these guys, they're not with us. And for like one of the people who are like the upper levels of Black Lives Matter to say that rioting and reparations and stuff like that. It's like, dude, that we do not need that right
No, we do not need that at all. At all. Like, cut that shit out.
So I could kind of understand where Trump's coming from in that situation. I think he's still generalizing, but I can kind of understand where they're coming from because it's muddy. You can't really tell when you have an organization doing something like that and saying stuff
Right.
like that. You can't tell the difference who, like, because they'll say we're doing peaceful protesting and this and that, and then you turn around and all these stuff getting burned down and stuff, and it's like, well, how are we going to know the difference between the people who are peacefully protesting and people who are rioting when they're all mixed up in this big crowd, you know? And yeah, it's just, this year has just been nuts. And yeah, I don't know, like
Yeah, man. The Black Lives Matter. I get real conflicted about it because, like, the core message, you know, obviously, I believe Black Lives Matter. Obviously, I believe all lives matter. And I know that there are people who don't believe Black Lives Matter.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there's people out there that don't believe.
I know that. I've experienced it
firsthand.
But yeah, like you said, when all this other stuff is mixed in, you got all the rioters and looters. It taints what
taints the message.
It taints the message. So I understand why people are turned off by it. And I wish it was different. I wish, you know, there was a way we could, you know, separate the two. But I mean, when you look back through history, whenever there's protests and whatnot, there's always those people who are out there trying to just fuck shit up.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is, now I don't necessarily fully agree with Candace Owens. I do think that there have been times where riots were effective.
Yeah.
But she did speak on a point that, you know, quite a few riots actually caused more harm than good in the past. Mm-hmm. You know, it had businesses moving out, and that made the area much more worse than it was before, because, again, there's no finances in those areas. And so, you know, and honestly, living in a time that we're living in right now, and my mindset has been changing a lot this year. I would be real. I'm seeing a lot less white privilege and more first class privilege. Like it is really strange because, you know, again, I used to peddle the whole Black Lives Matter thing too years back. People know. Mm-hmm. But now I'm just looking at it and I'm like, you know what, man? Like maybe these Black conservatives are correct. You know, maybe we are victimizing ourselves a little bit too much here. You know, comparative to the things that Black people have gone through in the past in its history, you know, and that's kind of the other side of it. You know, I've always talked about, like, we need to stop ignoring history. We need to acknowledge history so we don't repeat it. But now I'm seeing the other side of it too, where people aren't understanding that we still have rights out here to make better moves and stuff like that. And, you know, the media loves to manipulate people. I've said this for so long, and I'm seeing it now. Honestly, the moment that Black Lives Matter became mainstream, I couldn't trust it. You know, something did not feel right about that. And lo and behold, you know, we see these situations with all these cops and stuff and these Black guys, and you're seeing certain situations where it's like, okay, I don't think that a person's past has anything to do with what's happening presently, but you can also look at their past and you kind of see a pattern of the type of things that they do.
Right.
And you can see, and, you know, some cops have to look at this stuff too. So if you got somebody who's been convicted of, you know, assault and a number of other things in the past, you know, as a cop, you have to be very aware of that, because you're going into a situation where, you know, you don't know if this person has learned from that. If they're just constantly in this loop of doing those things, you know. So I can understand, like, you know, or the police have this issue. But I also think police need better training. I do think that, we need to reform the police. I wouldn't say defund, because I think defund is not the right term.
Yeah, I think defund sends the wrong message.
Yeah, and that's what I think media manipulation is that they use a lot of terms and stuff like Black Lives Matter, defund the police, this and that, to cause a divide. Because if you said reform the police, or you said we need to stop police brutality, which, I mean, admittedly, it does affect other people a little bit more than it does Black people, especially now. There are cops that are scared to even approach Black people. If you say stuff like we need to address police brutality because there may be cops on the force that are racist, like if you say stuff like that, or you say reform the police and things like that, it doesn't get clicks. It doesn't get attention. It doesn't get all the clout.
Right.
As much as defund police or Black Lives Matter. There are people that say all lives matter. And I've talked to some of these people. Some of them do use that to kind of pander to the racism, because they'll outright say, well, maybe you deserved it. And, Black people did. Yeah, no, look, if you're saying stuff like that, just admit that you're racist. Look, sorry. You can't sit here and be all lives mattering me and then tell me that, oh, well, Black people, come on. Let me address Black people because I'm Black. All right.
Right.
But there's other people that are like, yeah, I don't understand Black Lives Matter because, if we all agree all lives matter, do we really need to say Black Lives Matter? And, I kind of agree with them. I get where their logic stands, but at the same time, it's like, well, we're saying Black Lives Matter because we feel like we're not being heard. That's the problem.
That's the problem.
And I don't think these terms really contradict each other. But, again, media likes to play the divide.
And that's the thing. Like these two phrases should not contradict each other at all. Like, I don't get, like, if I say Black Lives Matter, you should not feel so offended that you have to say all lives matter.
Yeah.
Like, clearly we're on the same team.
Yeah, clearly, like we're in. It's like, dude, we're trying to focus on Black lives, because we're Black. It doesn't mean that we're not gonna focus on other people's lives. Now, don't get me wrong. I have run into, being in the conscious, so-called conscious community. I have run into a lot of Black racists. Okay, they're not ashamed of it.
Oh yeah,
they're not even remotely ashamed of it. So I've run into some Black racists. So I know that there are some extremists out there that they say Black Lives Matter. Yeah, they're on the borderline of F white.
Yeah. When they say it, they mean only Black Lives Matter.
Yeah,
you're absolutely right. There are those people out there who believe that.
So I can understand the logic, because that's the thing. That's why I'm backing away from the statement, because it's like, I get the logic. I see it, because in a way we are kind of enabling that. And that's the last thing I want to enable is fighting racism with more racism. I'm not with that,
Yeah, I agree with you 100%, man. You can't fight fire with fire and expect to win, man. Like, it's not.
Yeah, it doesn't work. Now, don't get me wrong. I still feel that tribalism is a natural thing.
Yeah,
I completely agree with Black Power, or being pro-Black. But again, I am always in the stance that being pro-Black does not mean you're anti-white. You don't have to be anti-white. You just be pro-Black. You want to support more Black people, you want to support more Black businesses, then by all means, please do that shit, because we need it. But
I agree, man.
Being anti-white and F-white, like, I'm not with all that, man. I just, if I'm going to support Black businesses or run my own business, and it's just more of a, hey, you either with us or stand out of my way. I ain't trying to have no conflict with you or nothing. Just be in your lane. If you're gonna be in your lane, be in your lane. If you want to help, then cool. That's where I'm at.
I think the problem with Black Power, and it's not even really like I'm not saying that there's a problem with Black Power. I'm all for that shit, 100%.
Yeah.
But I've noticed that when I do talk to certain white people and I bring up Black Power and they try to argue what's the difference between black power and white power, you know, when we say black power, we're talking about the empowerment of black people, trying to lift us up and whatnot. But at the same time, not trying to exclude anyone.
Right. And
white power has always been
exclusive. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, and that's the thing that the right, the people that are on the right, the conservatives, that don't seem to understand. Again, I get the logic. Black Lives Matter, Black Power. I get it. I get the logic behind it. On the surface, you can say, "Oh, well, that's kind of racist," but it's not what we mean. Now, if we could find a better term, if we could find a better way of stating that we just want to try to support each other and try to build each other up, you know, so that, you know, we can be on equal footing with everybody else.
Right.
Then, hey, let's find a new term. Let's find a new way of saying it then that is not so offensive to people. But to me, I feel like saying Black Power or Black Lives Matter or whatever, it sends ripples. And that's the thing. Like, again, it's really tough to differentiate people who just want to better Black lives from the people who only want to focus on Black lives and anything else. Those are two separate people.
Yep.
And, you know, and we can always make the argument that, hey, maybe white power can be turned around and used as, you know, empowering white people. Because, again, there are white people that suffer just as much as we do.
Yeah.
You know, they do exist. It's just in that regard, and I think the thing that 2020 has shown us that for quite a while, you know, that's all we saw was white, you know, on in media and everything. And now we're starting to see the flip side of it, and people, and don't get me wrong, I do think that there are companies that are just trying to pander. Absolutely. And they're not actually doing this thing properly. But there are people that are like, man, why are they coming out with all this stuff with this, all the POCs and stuff like that? It's like, well, it's because we didn't have a lot, you know. And the thing, like, I'm all about like just creating our own stuff. Now, the whole superheroes, you know, changing the superheroes black and stuff, I'm kind of on the fence about that. On one hand, I kind of don't care if it's like an alternate universe. Cool. I don't think they should, you know, particularly make Peter Parker himself black, but Miles Morales, I'm cool with that.
See,
go ahead.
Yeah, man. You know, the superheroes and comic books, not, you know, that's our realm, man. So
yeah,
when it comes to changing characters, ethnicities, if it makes sense, fine, I'm all for it. But don't, like you said, Peter Parker, like, don't try to change Peter Parker.
Yeah, Peter Parker's Peter Parker. I don't like the tokenizing and pandering. I don't like that type of stuff.
No, like, it just doesn't work. Like, for a character who, like, where it doesn't matter if, you know, let's take Batman, for instance. He doesn't have to be a white guy.
Yeah.
Black Panther, though, he kind of has to be a black guy. Like, it's built in the character.
It's pretty much built in the character. Now, I would make the argument, though, that I definitely wouldn't change Batman or Bruce Wayne to be black. Like, he doesn't necessarily have to be a black guy, but I mean, Bruce Wayne is Bruce Wayne. You think Bruce Wayne, you think of a rich white guy who walks around in a bat suit. You know, that's pretty much
agree
what you
with
associate.
I agree. I mean, you know, he's, for a character that's been around for 70 plus years, to change now would be ridiculous. Yeah,
and my thing is, like, and again, I'm always about, let's create our own heroes and uplift them.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if you want more representation, create new heroes.
Exactly. That's where I'm at. Like, pandering and tokenizing and changing characters, you know, to be black or little, like even the Little Mermaid thing. Like, it's not a huge deal. I don't really care, but have you noticed that, like, a lot of the characters that are like they're turning black, a lot of them were ginger.
Yeah.
You know, they weren't necessarily blonde hair, blue eyed, and then turned black. No, they were ginger first.
Yep.
So it's like, what kind of narrative are you kind of playing there with that? I've noticed that. But it's like every time they do that, it's like, okay, with the Little Mermaid, it's like, okay, but you had a black mermaid though. So, right. Why couldn't you have the Little Mermaid where you focus on that black mermaid? And it's not Ariel anymore. It's that black mermaid. This is the
Exactly. Like one of her sisters was black.
yeah. So why not focus on the sister?
No.
No pun intended.
That's funny. But yeah, I agree with you, man. Like, she could still be the Little Mermaid. Like, it's not like the Little Mermaid is not a title that exclusive to one character. Like,
yeah.
so
Even with Batman, we had Batwing. He came back for a movie recently.
yeah, man, I love Batwing, man. He's dope.
Yeah, it's because remember that's the son of Lucius Fox, right?
Yeah.
If I remember correctly. Yeah. So
Yep.
why not uplift that character more? Because that's a cool character to me. I don't want Black Bruce Wayne. I want Batwing. Give me Batwing. Give me more Batwing.
Exactly. Give me Batwing. I want more.
Give me more of the because I know there are people who are tripping about like Michael B. Jordan trying to play Superman, but there is a black Superman. There's an actual black Superman out there. Or if you don't want to go that far, you don't want to do Black Superman, you got another character, Icon. If I remember correctly, I think he's DC. Icon's DC, right?
Yeah, Icon is DC, and yeah, he's
basically a Black Superman. So why not focus on Icon? Bring back these heroes that didn't get a lot of play before, and start building on those characters. Because we have black heroes, so build on them. You got heroes of different ethnicities. Start building on them, build a fan base for them, bring them back. Do that kind of stuff. And then you have odd situations like Nick Fury being Sam Jackson, and it's like on one hand I'm like, yeah, I do feel like they're kind of tokenizing there. On the other hand, I'm like, it's Samuel L. Jackson,
right?
I didn't really know a lot about Nick Fury prior to that. And I mean, it's Sam Jackson. I don't know. Like, can we really top that? Like, do we have a white actor that can top that? Because if he can bring that argument, hey, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. Make Nick Fury white again. If he find somebody who can top Sam Jackson, hey, I'm down for it.
Like when Nick Fury originally, they had him as a white guy, and then they decided to change him and make him in Samuel L. Jackson's likeness.
Yeah,
I was like, oh, okay, it worked. I see that. And then I saw, Sam Jackson play him in, live action. I was like, yeah, that's the character. That's him. Like,
yeah.
Just like when, Robert Downey Jr. played Iron Man, I was like, oh, that's Iron Man. Like,
yeah. And what I found out recently, I think now they've kind of retconned it where the black Nick Fury is actually the son of the white Nick Fury. And I'm like,
yeah,
could you just have him just be a different Nick Fury? They just happen to have the same name, or maybe Nick Fury's a mantle. I don't know. Like, could his son really? Is he like his adopted son? Like what? Well, no, he can't be his adopted son because how would you name him Nick Fury Jr.?
Right.
Like, wouldn't he be mixed? Like, is he half? Like, I don't. It's like you just made things more confusing that way. I don't. So I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, man. I'm all for, more representation. Just be original about it. That's all I ask. Be original about it, and try to give other people a chance.
Yeah, and that's that's something that's kind of like really. I think 2020 really is the year of hindsight. Let's just be real. I think that's what I'm learning a lot about this year is that, now is really the time to start building up things and, trying to do our own thing. That's, I'm really happy that I started this company. Like I hopefully it gets back to me pretty soon. I can get some kind of funding and kind of get back to my project. But one of the things that was interesting about helping work with Streets of Rage 4 is that I did see comments like, why are there a lot of black people? And I'm like, well, first off, if you knew anything about the series, the two black people that are on the roster, one of them is a legacy character who's been there since the first game.
Yep.
The other one is a legacy character, is kind of continuing the legacy because that's the daughter of that character and also the niece of his brother who appeared in the other two games. So there's no pandering there. Those are literally characters that are building on the story. One of them bringing back a character that we hadn't seen in 2 games, and the other one's kind of continuing to build the same kind of legacy that we had going with that particular family. Like they're all
Right.
related. And the third guy is not black. He's Samoan.
Close enough, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Somebody was just like, why can't we get an Asian guy? And I'm like, oh, well, I know Pacific Islanders don't like to be called Asian, but I mean, if you want to be technical.
I'm like, technically.
You're going to be technical. I guess you could say he's Asian. I don't know. Maybe I get canceled for that one. But it's interesting that like somebody brings a franchise back that has notably had, people of color and different ethnicities in the game throughout this whole series, and you still get comments like that. And
Right.
It's just really strange to me. Like, why is that a big deal? Like I said, I've been playing Street Fighter for years. I've been playing Final Fight for years. Hell, Final Fight is literally blonde hair, blue eyed the game. I think there's like 8 characters, and out of those 8 characters, you got like 2 Asian characters, 1 Brazilian guy, and then the rest of them are like white characters. And most of those characters are blonde hair. And even one of the Asian characters are blonde hair. So you kind of have like the same type of character with that whole roster. And then Street Fighter, majority of their characters are white or Asian.
Yeah.
And that's never really been a problem. So I don't see why there's a big issue. Again, outside of the pandering, like if somebody's legitimately making characters they just like to see, to me personally, like if you have a game that has a lot of black characters in it, and they're all different, because there's different black people out there. Okay, there's Jamaican, there's different countries in Africa, all that stuff.
Right.
There's black people in Brazil, all that stuff. So if you have a game and you have that diverse number of characters and most of them are black, I'm cool with that. What I'm not cool with is you have all those characters and you're like, look how inclusive we are.
Mm-hmm.
Look at us. We're diverse. Look at us. We have a woman developing the game. Look at that. No, if that's the first thing you have to bring up, I'm not even listening anymore. Because look, I'm a black guy who's going to be owning a gaming company, and I'm not going to be walking around with my chest out. I'm a black guy. I'm just going to develop games that I want to see. They may have predominantly black characters in it, but that's because that's the kind of characters I want to design.
Right.
Not because I want to pander or because I have some sort of agenda or whatever. That's just the characters I want to design. And that's it. Like, I'm not going to try to play on this whole we're inclusive. And it's like, no, it's just, hey, I'm a developer just like anybody else,
Yeah. Speaking of that, though, can you tell us a little bit about what you're working on?
So we won't be able to start development until November, it looks like. But we have managed to find some kind of funding. Of course, I think we talked about it before, Deadly Metropolis, being a beat 'em up. It's actually going to be more than that. I'm looking into doing other things with it, but right now we're working on a game. And we're hoping to at least get our kind of first build, maybe in a trailer out by beginning of next year. We did have to downsize on the roster and stuff to kind of just get it out there. So, a lot of characters that I plan to design, I'm going to have to design for like a follow-up or
DLC?
something like that. Yeah, DLC. That's what I'm thinking about doing. But, the premise behind it is just following the Bruce Star crew, and they're fighting through Neo Bablos, which that group consists of 3 characters, D-Tag, Kimo, Songbird. it's I don't want to be like, oh, it's inspired by Streets of Rage this and that, because I feel like that's something that a lot of people say, and they probably played those games once in their life.
I mean, is it really such a bad thing, though, if it is inspired by Streets of Rage? I mean,
I don't think it's bad if it is inspired. It's just it's the same thing when I feel like when somebody says we're inclusive, we're inclusive, we're inclusive. I feel like when somebody says that is a red flag that they don't necessarily understand the genre. They just like those games specifically, and they want to make something. And it always turns out that way.
right.
So I try to steer away from saying, "Oh, it's inspired by." Like I really rather just say it's its own game. We look at other beat 'em ups and stuff, but it's gonna be like its own beat 'em up.
That's what's up. And so the three main characters are based on you and your siblings, right?
Yeah, basically. I do want to say the main character isn't really based on me, but because I used the avatar for so long, people pretty much associate it with me. That is kind of the interesting thing about like building a character that's black. Like he's black and he has a beard, so basically automatically it's me. You know, it's kind of funny because I'm like, well, really, because like a lot of people are like, oh, well, the other guy, the chemo, he looks more like you than this guy. I'm like, yeah, that's kind of intentional because the other two characters are actually based on my siblings. Like I actually took the time to design those characters with them and around them, whereas this character I built because it was like, oh, these are kind of features I do want to see on a protagonist, and that's what I want to build off of. But I think eventually I'm just gonna have to bite the bullet and be like, yeah, it's me.
I mean, at this point, why not?
Yeah, might as well, right? But I don't know. I guess because I guess the biggest issue there is that some people look down on like self-inserts and stuff. But I always feel like people always kind of insert themselves into different characters that they build all the time. And the difference with us specifically, like I said, building our own characters and stuff, is that we don't have a full range of diverse black characters where I can just build a character and nobody associates it with me because there's other characters out there that are similar. You know what I mean? So, hey, if I kind of have to bite that bullet, then oh well, you know. But yeah, I guess it's pretty short. You know, I guess I could say the main character is loosely based on me or based on the type of protagonist I've always wanted to see in that particular genre. You know, I think I've only seen it maybe twice in the genre. One of them being Streets of Rage, of course.
That's what's up, man. Well, I look forward to everything that you're doing, man. Like, I can't wait for this thing to pop off. And I know people are going to love it.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. You know, I also got some other things down the pipeline, too. I did mention I had a podcast that I'm working on. I recorded one episode. I'm going to be honest, like I looked at it and I'm like, man, I do not do very well unless I have somebody to bounce off of. It is really tough. It's really tough to do a solo podcast.
It is really tough to do a solo podcast. Like my first couple episodes, I was like, oh my gosh, like I didn't realize how hard it is to, you know, carry this thing by myself.
I had to say it's a lot harder to not bounce around on topics when you're talking with yourself. So what I'm doing now is I'm actually writing up my episodes.
Right. Yep.
And I mean like in detail, because I used to write just pinpoints, but even with that, I would kind of deter. So now I'm just kind of writing what my thoughts are, and I'm writing them up for the podcast. So when I do solo podcast, then it's more structured. You know, it's not all over the place. You know, that kind of good stuff.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think I figured early on when I first started this, like, because I would let Amanda listen to my recordings before I would, you know, put it out there. And she would always be like, you know, like, I get what you're trying to say, like, but you can really tell that you're like all over the place.
Yeah, it's tough. It's really tough to stay focused. It's really because I mean, there's so much stuff to talk about, and all these things kind of interconnect. You eventually just start drifting off, and if you don't have somebody else to kind of like with us right now, if I start to drift off a little bit, I just stop and let you talk because you're going to kind of bring it back. You know what I mean? So when you're doing it by yourself, you don't have the person to kind of bring the conversation back or bounce the conversation back and forth. It's like playing ping pong with yourself. Some people are good at
that. Yeah. Yeah, some people are really good with playing with themselves.
Yeah, I need co-op. I need co-op action.
Hey man, I agree with you, man. Anytime you want to have me on, I'm more than happy to help you out.
Yeah, man. I've been thinking about like what topics I want to cover and stuff. It's interesting. I do have a name for it. It's the Abari podcast. I figured I always go by D. Abari, so I might as well just kind of go along with it. I'm getting better at making up names though. My company's actually called Abreed Media, and so that podcast is going to be under that company. I'm also working again with Browse Avenue to try to help other indie developers get their beat 'em up and stuff out there, maybe branching out to fighting games too. So that's a pretty big project that I've been working on for quite a while that I'm hoping to see lift off. And it's on hold, but we are also working on a comic book as well.
Ooh,
so
comic book.
Yeah, I really want to get in the comic industry, and it's kind of strange because I kind of feel like the physical comic books are going to be really tough, especially with a lot of these comic book stores closing down.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to try to figure out like how we could get comic books out there digitally, but on better platforms. Because I kind of feel like the current platforms, I mean, they're okay. It's hard for me to really get into them like that.
Right. I get that. Man, like I've always wanted to like break into the comic book world. I see all these people who, I'm subscribed to the DC Universe app. So I watch the DC Daily and, just a bunch of people sitting around talking about comic books. And I'm like, man, y'all get paid to do that? Like,
yeah,
how can I get that job, man?
I think what it is, especially now, even podcasts like this or even open up a YouTube channel, you'll eventually get there, man. And, that's why I really love the idea of building my own platform, because I want a platform where I can reach out to someone like yourself and just be like, hey, you know what? I got a platform. Let's do a comic book podcast where we just talk about comic books, or we just talk about video games, or something to kind of drive get rid of the edge,
right?
Because we have a lot of podcasts talking about politics and stuff like that too, and that it's good to talk about it. It's important to talk about those things, but if we cannot get folded into that, it's really depressing if you get too far deep into that, especially now.
That's true. I think one of my main goals, I started out, I wanted to be able to have a platform where people could talk about whatever they need to talk about and, not be ostracized for it.
Yeah.
But moving forward, and you'll notice with most of the episodes in this season, I'm starting to open it up. Like, I want people to be able to talk about happy things as well. I don't want to get bogged down in so much in the reality of things.
Yeah, I feel that I really want to do that with my platform. That's why I love the idea of getting into video games and comic books and stuff.
Yeah.
Because even that stuff is getting politicized now. And it's not to say that politics haven't been in comic books and video games. I think there's a solid difference between something like X-Men, where you could kind of conclude that is based on the civil rights era. Mm-hmm. But it's not so blatant.
Right.
That you're saying, oh, it's definitely no, you can come to that conclusion. But unless the creator himself says that that's what that was based on, you don't have confirmation on that. Whereas nowadays, it's in your face. It's in your face. Oh, this is a Democrat comic, or this is a Republican. It's like, dude, I don't like. Look, if that's your view, cool. Do it subliminally. Like I made a joke too. I'm like, I'd rather all these weird sexual things or whatever just be subliminal like they used to be in our time. Like the good old days.
Yeah.
I'll put it in our subconscious. I don't need to see it directly. Please. Just if you really just feel the need to do that crap, just put it in our subconscious. I don't need to see it directly anymore. Politics, all that stuff is like, come on, man. Just
yeah, I agree. Well, bro, I really appreciate you coming on and talking with me for, first episode of this season.
Yeah, I'm glad we're back at it. I'm really sad I didn't get to get my podcast out there as soon as I wanted to, but I think things are just gonna take time. I'm just gonna take my time with it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I look forward to hearing it. I look forward to all your projects, man. And I'm so proud of you, man. Like I always knew that you were gonna do it. And
I appreciate
doing
that,
it, man. I'm so proud of you.
Yeah, man. One of these days, man, we're all gonna be eating, man. We're gonna be taking trips out to Japan, not even thinking about it.
That's the goal, man. That's the goal.
It's a big goal. And we gotta give a little quick shout out to Yasmin. She just had surgery on her nose. She should be recovering pretty soon.
Okay.
So hopefully we can get her back on this season as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Those were fun.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely shout out to her, and I hope her recovery is going well.
Absolutely.
All right, man. I think we'll wrap it up for there.
Yes, sir.
Thank you once again for coming on, man, and you take care.
You too, man.
All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you guys for listening and subscribing to the Third Eye Podcast. I do appreciate your support. If you would like to be a guest on the show, you can reach me through my website. That's thirdeyepodcast.net. Go to the contact button and fill out a form, and it'll send straight to my email, and we can chat, see about getting you on. You can follow me on my social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram. My handle is at @third_I_podcast. Tune in next week. I have a very special guest coming on. Very excited about this. And I'm just happy to be back. So thank you all. Remember, love each other, be kind to one another, especially in these times. And I will see you guys all next week. Take care.